So in today, I'm going to be talking about a topic that gets often neglected. If you want to build muscle, if you want to get stronger, if you want to get fitter, it is dependent on your performance. Your performance is dependent on your energy. Today, we're going to be talking about rest times because rest times are important for your energy and your energy is important for your performance. And for you guys wanting to build muscle, get strong and to get fit, you need to actually start learning these principles if you want to start getting the most out of your training. So let's jump straight into the whiteboard. So a very, very common theme I see often, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's in the gym, is people not utilizing rest times and actually understanding energy systems. And I know for a lot of people, they're not really that interested in a lot of the anatomy and the physiology behind the body. All they want to do is go to the gym, work out, get bigger, get stronger. However, just by learning some of these very, very key principles, you can start actually maximizing your time in the gym and start reaching your goals a lot sooner. A very, very common thing that I see is for people doing a typical 5x5, yet they rest and train as if they're doing bodybuilding. They see these bodybuilders that will be saying anything longer than a minute's rest and you're just slacking. If you're resting too long, you're wasting your time, you're resting, you're not building muscle. And actually this mentality in some instances is correct. However, when it comes to being applied to the 5x5 and strength building, it's the worst thing you want to be doing. Actually having longer rest is going to be something that's going to be even more important when it comes to your performance, when it comes to building muscle, maybe more for endurance training, but having that sort of mentality and taking that mentality and that training that is adhered to, say, bodybuilding and maybe isolation work does not apply for when you're doing compound training, when you're doing strength training. If you follow those principles and bring them to strength training, your strength, your performance, your ability to get stronger is going to plummet and it's going to plummet very, very quickly. So today I want to be talking about that and start bringing you to the whiteboard. For any of you that are new here, I'm a certified PT, and even though I do workout videos and calisthenics content and weighted calisthenics and some weight training too, I like to bring it to the whiteboard every now and again to go into a little bit of science for any of you that are interested in anatomy and physiology and a little bit more about how we build muscle, how we get stronger. This is going to be one of those videos, so I hope you like it. If you do, give it a thumbs up. So we're going to be talking about rest times, the amount of time that we rest between work sets. And that's going to have to be broken down into a few different things. I'm going to try and break these down so it gives you an idea of if you're reading a magazine or you hear someone saying rest a specific time, do this, do that, you're going to have a better understanding of why you're doing it. And obviously as we're training through different times in our life, what we're looking for and our goals are going to change. So at least this way, this gives you the information to know how to go forward with that. So obviously it's going to be broken down into whatever our goal is. For some of you that are going to be interested in strength, your main primary focus is, I want to get stronger. It's going to be different. And if you're someone that's like, I just want to build muscle, not too bothered whether I get stronger or fitter, I want to get bigger. Maybe you're someone that's self-conscious, maybe you're small, you just want to build muscle, maybe you're someone that has to put on a bit of size. For whatever reason, your primary focus is just building muscle. That's going to be slightly different to people that are going to be focusing on endurance, to people that want to just increase their work capacities, people that want to be able to do lots of high rep training, maybe people that are going into the military where they don't particularly want to get too big, but they need to have that ability where there's certain rep counts that they need to hit. Maybe there's people that like to do assault courses and just like being fit and having high endurance. It's going to be different. Your training is what we're going for. So if we're training for strength, for instance, our rep ranges is going to be between 1 and 6 reps, okay? You basically get better at what you test. So if you want to test your strength, you have to lift something to a high intensity. So for instance, if you're lifting weights, it's going to be something between 80% of your 1 rep max and up. If you're doing sort of calisthenics, it's a little bit different, but you could be working with sort of anything where you could do that exercise, or maybe if you're doing a weighted version, something that you'll be working with between 1 and 6 reps. If you're working within that range, that intensity range, I'm not talking about going to fatigue, but how hard it is to actually do that exercise for a specific number of reps. If you're working between 1 and 6 reps, you're going to be testing your strength. When we are resting 3 to 5 minutes. The reason why we're resting 3 to 5 minutes is the energy system that we're going to be using. The energy system is the ATP-CP energy system, or the creatine phosphate system. This is the energy system you see people doing when they're doing Olympic lifting, when they're doing sprints. And this is why when you see people doing sprinters, they'll last like 5-10 seconds. People doing Olympic lifts, they'll do a lift and then they might rest 5 or 10 minutes. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they don't put the work in or they just want to sit around more. It's because the energy system that you are using that is testing this sort of range, and it gets even more intense when you're working more towards singles, doubles and triples than higher up, maybe a 5x5. How hard you go with your intensity range or close to your all out 1 rep max the harder it hits this. And this is why it might take longer, sometimes 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes even longer. It's because this is the energy system that we're using. This is responsible for very, very strong contractions, maximal force, but it fatigues, it basically, that energy source depletes very, very quickly. So this is why if you are working within this rep range and your goal is to get stronger, I'm doing weighted calisthenics, I want to get to a certain number of a weighted pull-up, maybe you're doing deadlifts, whatever it is, if your primary focus is in strength, you need to start taking longer rest periods. If you are doing a 5x5, which is a very, very good program to start with, you need to start having longer rests. If you're there doing like a bodybuilding thing, your performance is going to decline. Our ability to reach any of these goals is focused on our ability to perform that, and the efficiency of how well we perform that, how good we are, is dependent on how much energy we have. If you're not giving yourself enough time, and there's a little chart that I'll see that gives you an idea of how quickly this resynthesizes, goes through, it takes a certain amount of time for it to resynthesize and to sort of build that battery, that energy reserve up. If you're working sort of 5x5, you want to be having 3 minutes at least to maximally perform at that high level, especially if you're doing 5 sets over and over again to a high intensity. Remember, that's what you need to do. You need to train for that. If you're looking to build muscle, this is a much bigger gap. I have done a video on different types of hypertrophy, whether it's myofibrillar, whether it's sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. So it's a bit of a broad definition. If you want to know a little bit more about hypertrophy, I'll leave a card up above or down below. There'll be a link to that video. Make sure you check it out. It's another whiteboard one, but it's very interesting. This has got a bigger cap of how much reps that we're going to be going for, because you can build muscles in all of these sort of ranges. However, this is sort of the area where there's a good amount of intensity, there's a good time under tension, plus there's a good amount of volume. And volume, time and attention, these are both drivers to building muscle as well as intensity. So this is why there's such a big gap for it. The rest period is a little bit less, but it's more again than what you would typically hear. Again, the reason being is because our ability to perform is more important than the idea of just fatiguing the muscle for the sake of it. If you have very, very limited rest, if you're only left resting 60 seconds and you're lifting something that's 6 or 7 or 8 reps, your ability to set after set after set, be able to hit that rep count is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be hard to be able to perform at a high intensity. And the shorter the rest period, these energy systems are all overlapping. It's not just you only work this energy system or this energy system working for this goal. They are constantly overlapping. A lot of the time, this one will be the starting force a lot of time, especially if you're doing some form of resistance training. This is going to kick off straight away for a lot of time, but these are overlapping. If you're having a shorter rest period, your ability to exert force and strength, because these have not recovered properly, is going to impact your performance. So you're better having a slightly longer rest period, giving yourself the energy reserves to be able to go again, to be able to hit to a higher performance, whether that means hitting the same rep count, doing more volume over a certain period of time, over a certain number of sets, or just lifting more weight, lifting to a higher intensity. You're better having a longer rest period and then being able to do that. As long as you perform well and you are progressive and you're placing tension in the muscle, that is what is going to allow you to build muscle to get stronger. It's not just as long as you have a limited rest period and you keep the burn going and you keep going and you fatigue that muscle, that's what's going to drive muscle. It's not the best way to drive muscle growth. We're going to be using the glycotic or the anaerobic lactic energy system. Okay, so this is why when you're doing this sort of rep range, a lot of times sometimes you can feel that burn build up, and that's just a byproduct of your body burning carbohydrates for energy. The thing is with this is used without oxygen, hence anaerobic. And this is why you can't go on for this period of time for too long, because we function on oxygen. So there's only so long we can do that. A byproduct of that is lactic acid. However, this is why sometimes you feel that build up. It takes a certain amount of time for this to start kicking in. This has a certain amount of energy that it can perform, but we want to make sure that we're getting enough rest periods so when we want to go back and do this set again, we can perform to a high intensity. It's the performance and how well we do it which allows us to reach our goal. When we're looking at endurance, of things where we're doing 12, 15 plus reps, or any of you that are looking to do 20 rep pull-ups, or maybe you've got a certain rep count of what you want to be going for. Maybe you're someone that just likes the idea of being able to go on for a long period of time. Endurance or work capacity, that can be as a general unit as a whole, if you're including sort of cardio-based things or circuit-based things, to just local muscular endurance of like, again, how many pull-ups and things can you do in a set. The reps are going to be a lot higher, but the rest period is lower, because the reason why the rest period is lower is because the adaptation we're trying to make is we're trying to force the body to how much fuel it can have access to and how efficiently it can use that fuel. To be able to do that, we need to keep tapping into it. So this is like if you're doing the bodybuilding sort of style, having 0 to 60 seconds, maybe up to 90 seconds is the best way to test. If you want to be able to run longer and increase your endurance, you need to run for longer, and then you then eventually maybe increase the distances and then how fast you can increase that distances. So you want to limit the amount of rest if you're trying to work on endurance. You're still going to be using the anaerobic sort of lactate energy system, hence why sometimes if you're doing 12, 15 reps, sometimes you can feel that burn build up because these energy systems are overlapping. But then you start moving into sort of the aerobic energy system, and this is basically where you get to that point where your body is trying to flush out the lactate. Where you normally stop is basically where your body cannot keep up with the amount of lactate that is building up, so that then builds up, and basically it's all about getting the efficiency of how quickly your body can remove that lactate and bring new energy in. And obviously the better you get with this, the better your endurance gets in your work capacity. But part of the way of testing your endurance is by having a limited rest period. So that's one way in which you can play with it to make this a variable to increase how well you are with your endurance. Where these, you want to be having longer rest periods because your performance is tested by how well you complete your reps and how efficient you are. And these rest periods are dependent on these energy systems. So guys, I hope you found this interesting. I hope now you know this, you'll be able to apply this into your training, and you'll be able to then say, okay, I'm now doing this form of training. I need to rest this amount of period of time if I want to maximize my performance. If you're doing strength training and you're resting 1 or 2 minutes because you're trying to rush your session, your performance and your strength training ability is going to plummet. If you're short on time, you're better just doing the same thing, resting the same amount of time, and maybe doing less exercises or less volume, and then in the future allow more time for your training. Okay guys, so guys, I hope you found this useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.